The text messaging part of Grower's Edge is very handy because every day I'll receive a text that shows me where the best local market is.
That's what I like about Grower's Edge too. It gives me the information I want on my smartphone so that if I'm not in the office, I still get the information that I need.
Good afternoon and welcome to GrainTV. It's May 24th, 2013. To my right is Cody Bills and I'm Brock Shimbino. The grains ended the week negative. Let's turn over to the fire tip trading software to see how we ended. Corn was down 4 3/4 for the July contract. Soybeans off 23 1/4 cents. Wheat in Chicago down 5 3/4, and Kansas City was off 8 3/4 as well. You know, Cody, we kind of anticipated this yesterday, a little bit of selling going into this long holiday weekend, but it looks like soybeans really took it on the chin for the most part.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we talked about it a little bit yesterday. The type of trade activity that we saw on Thursday was very indicative of really a little bit more selling to come on today's trade. That happened. We ended up trading down 23 cents and 23 1/4 cents. And really, I think it was follow-through selling from that fake out that we had yesterday. You know, we tried to get over 15. We pushed up to 15.46, so we were well on that north side of 15. And then we came charging right back at the end of the day. I wouldn't be surprised if some people that were long got caught in that and ended up having to get out of the positions before the weekend here today. One of the main things, though, that we should focus on is basis. Basis has really been moving very much inverted with the action in the price. For corn, it's not so bad here. Corn was mostly stable. We had solid basis, really an improvement about 1.5 cents here on average across the U.S. We saw ethanol plants stay firm. You know, we've seen solid production out of ethanol plants. The production this week was actually a marketing year high, so that's very good to see. And you know, the crush margin going forward, or that grind margin going forward, is pretty solid. It stays very healthy. Where we see issues here is soybeans. Soybeans basis has absolutely collapsed in the last week. On average, across the U.S., we just saw a 51-cent decline in basis. This is just an absolute plummet in basis across the U.S. When you look at crush facilities, we saw 71-cent decline on average across crush facilities and 51-cent decline along the river. The bottom line here is I really think that a lot of this is coming from the fact that we had improved farmer sales because of the huge rally in price that we saw in the last 6 days, but also because of the convergence between the cash price and the futures price as we move toward the delivery period, or closer to the end of the trade for that July contract, which will be last trade here. Really, you know, we have about 3 or so weeks to go.
Yeah, coming up on first notice day for that July contract in soybeans. You know, something else that's been kind of interesting as well, I've seen come across the newswire a couple times over the last couple days, is a lot of these elevators and end users are actually rolling their contracts out to August, September, and sometimes even out into November, and still pricing it for spot delivery off the November contract.
Yeah, that's really unique. You know, we don't typically see that this time of the year, but you're absolutely right. We've been observing that as well as we collect cash basis. We've seen a lot of people go from that July to the November contract this early. That seems a little bit odd, but I think that is also contributing to why we're seeing basis just implode here as we move into June.
You know, something else that was interesting today is that we saw the deferred contracts actually stay in positive territory. The December corn contract, the November soybean contract, and I think a lot of what's driving those contracts is the weather that we have coming up over the weekend and into early next week. If we take a look at these weather maps provided by our weather intelligence company, Planalytics, that we use here, you can see that Sunday's forecast is looking a little bit more wet than what we should see over the next day or so. And then Monday, we're also looking quite a bit wetter, and then into Tuesday as well. And what they're saying here recently, we just got a report from them, is that 80% of the western corn belt is looking up to about 3 inches of rain or precipitation for the greater part of the western corn belt. Eastern corn belt is looking for about a 65% coverage there, with localized areas up to about 3 inches as well. So looking quite a bit wetter. It's going to keep some of these guys out of the fields over the next couple days, but to go along with that, it looks like the weather or the temperatures are supposed to be quite a bit warmer, so that's going to help the crops that are actually in the ground start to progress along their production cycle.
So, of course, you know, those acres that haven't been able to get into the ground, sure, we have been able to make a little bit of progress in the last couple of days, just because of the weather's not quite as rainy, but it looks like we're going to get some rain coming down the pipe, and it seems as though that'll keep a lot of producers out of the field. Do you think there's a chance that some of these acres that don't get planted here by next week, do you think there's a chance that they could switch over to soybeans?
I think there's definitely a chance, especially in some of those northern tier states we're still just a little bit behind. They're coming up on preventative plant date. Some of the early states are here this weekend, so that's definitely a possibility that we could see some acreage turn over to soybeans. Something else that we need to keep in mind is that after this weekend, the weather does look quite a bit wetter, a little bit warmer, but still we're quite a bit behind, especially in the most important state, Iowa, for corn production. We're about 20% behind where we should be for this time of year, but we'll get the crop progress out on Tuesday afternoon.
No, that sounds fair enough. And guys, thanks a lot for tuning in this week. And if you have any questions about what we talked about, give us a call at 877-472-4607. And I would encourage you guys to go out there, if you don't already have a demo of the Fire Tip trading platform, which we highlighted here when we showed you the soybean chart. If you don't have that, you don't have access to the market at your home office, go ahead and take a demo. And you can actually get a demo at grainhedge.com. Just put in your name and email and phone number, and we can actually give you a walkthrough so you feel comfortable with it. But thanks a lot for tuning in. We'll see you back here on Tuesday.